Spring has sprung, and with that we are getting that much closer to camping season. So let's get the camper ready. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for joining you. If you're new here, my name is Daniel. I'm with Caldwell Country Outdoors. In this video I'm going to be going over the top 5 things that you need to do to get your travel trailer ready for camping season. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get into it, we got to take this cover off. So my advice to you, the first thing would be to make sure when you're taking the cover off, you're inspecting it. I've had this cover now. This is the 3rd season I've had it on. And honestly, it's starting to get a little bit of wear and tear. We've got some rips around the edges, specifically where the gutters are and where it meets and where it goes underneath the trailer. Looking at it, I think I can get probably 1 more season out of it, at least. So in this case, when I'm packing it up, I need to make sure I'm packing it up carefully and that we remember how we packed it up so that when we unroll it and try to put it on next year, we are better prepared to do so. We were very, very careful when we rolled this with this cover off. As I mentioned before, we rolled it from the front to the back so that when we go to put it on next year, we just have to unroll it from the back to the front and it should just kind of fall into place. Now that we've got the cover off the camper, it's time to now break down our 5 tips to get your travel trailer ready for camping season. Tip number 1, check for winter damage. That is always the first thing I do as soon as I get into my camper. Snow and ice has been sitting on this camper for months, and that can cause leaks or cracks or sometimes even some unnecessary unwanted critters moving in. You want to look over your roof seals, your windows, and you want to look underneath the trailer and just look for anything that seems out of the ordinary. Something that doesn't look right. Cracks, soft spots, or any signs of water. As you guys know, if you followed the channel for a while, last year I did not winterize my camper early enough and I had massive water problems. Additionally, I'm currently experiencing an issue right now with my black tank flush. I have replaced the vacuum breaker for the flush line once already. Still didn't fix the issue. Did a little bit of research. Also, it looks like I'm going to switch it out for a brass version and see if that makes a difference. Lastly, when I was putting the cover on this past year, unfortunately I stepped on one of the plumbing vent caps and I broke it. So I also had to replace that. So again, you want to make sure you're checking and looking for any kind of damage that would indicate that, number 1, some animal has moved into your camper, and number 2, you want to make sure it's still watertight. Trust me, catching a small leak now is way better than dealing with that damage later on. Ask me how I know. For our next tip, we want to look at our water system. If your camper's been winterized, which in this case mine has, you'll want to flush everything out before using it. To do this, a lot of campers have a low point drain. You can just open that up. That being said, it doesn't get everything out. Ideally, the best and most complete way to do this would be to hook up to some sort of water system or fill up your freshwater storage tank if you have one and run clean, fresh water through there. I will say, if you're using your water tank, go the extra mile and sanitize everything while you're doing it. Just a little bit of bleach in that tank will clean up everything, including your pipes. Never hurts. Just to make sure, you want to keep your water safe for cooking and drinking if that's your thing. Just remember, when you're running and checking your water system, if that water smells weird, don't ignore it. Flush it again, start over. Tip number 3, you want to make sure you're checking your battery and your electrical systems. A dead battery on your travel trailer can ruin your trip before it even starts. Number 1, make sure that the battery is in good working order. For me, I unhook my battery in the wintertime just to make sure that it kind of holds a charge. When you plug it back in, you just want to make sure that it is working correctly. And mine worked fine when I hooked it back up this year. Additionally, you want to make sure that everything in your camper powers up. You want to check your fridge. If you have slide outs, you're going to want to run those in and out if you can, if you have room where it's parked. Check your outlets. Make sure everything works the way that it's supposed to. Again, you want to identify these things when this camper or RV is sitting in your driveway, not when you're trying to use it when you're out camping. As I learned last year, if your battery is barely holding a charge, it's probably time to replace it. I replaced my battery last year and things are working a lot better since then. Tip number 4, don't skip over your tires. These things sit all winter. They can dry rot, they can lose tire pressure. Check your tire pressure. Look for any cracks in the tires or any kind of damage whatsoever. And make sure your lug nuts are tight. I always recommend torquing them. Usually there's a sticker on the side of your camper that shows you the correct torque level. So I always try to torque them at the beginning of the year up to that level. And I check them periodically throughout the camping season just to make sure they haven't come loose. It's also recommended that you change your tires on your travel trailer at minimum every 5 years. I just did this last year. The reason being is even if they look good, older tires are more likely to blow out on the highway. So make sure that you are checking your tires regularly, at least every time you move your camper. And just remember, even though they may look fine, if they're old, they can still blow out going down the highway, causing costly damage or potentially even an accident, and nobody wants that. All right, for our last tip, tip number 5, check your propane and your appliances. Unfortunately, at the end of camping season last year, I ran into an issue, and it was cold, so I was running my heater, and when I walked outside, you could smell propane. I think what happened was, when I was coming back from Holiday World and Splash and Safari, when we stayed at Lake Rudolph Campground, I went into Louisville and I hit a very big pothole. And I think it may have broken something inside of my regulator for my propane system. Unfortunately, I hadn't really used the heat until the end of the year, and we hardly ever cook inside our camper, so we didn't notice that it was leaking until the very last trip of the year, and it figures it's when we needed the heater. So last year, before we put the camper up and before we winterized it, my dad and I replaced that propane regulator on the front of my camper. We tested it a little bit then. However, as we mentioned with the tires and the roof and all of that, it's been sitting all winter. So we don't know what could potentially be wrong with it. Maybe something else broke. So you always want to make sure you're checking and testing all of your propane appliances. And you want to make sure that all of those things are working correctly before you leave. Again, as I mentioned before, the last place you want to realize that something's broken is when you're at the campground. One quick tip when you are testing your propane and your propane system, just because it doesn't light right away does not necessarily mean there's a problem. These lines can be quite long, especially if you have a kitchen that's pretty far away from your propane tanks. It may take a minute for the gas to flow all the way back to your stove. May not be a problem. However, if you start to smell propane, it's not leaking and it's not lighting, then you've got a problem. You need to get it looked at. Well, y'all, that's it. Those are my 5 simple things that you can do to get your travel trailer ready for camping season. Doing this now is going to save you a lot of time and effort in doing it in the future. And it could also save you some frustration if you find the problem now and could correct it before your first trip. I hope you got value out of this video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you'd like to see more hunting, fishing, camping, and outdoor content. That being said, you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. If you're getting ready to go to bed, you have a good night's sleep. And I will see you all on the next one.